to the Dirt Journal on the quest for details. Today we're going to clear some fence lines. Some of the weed whacking that I do, I'm back on a property. This is one of the properties that I take care of. I'm a gardener, landscaper, land steward. Basically that's how I make my way through my day jobs and day life. This place was designed excellently by the landowner. It was originally a goat farm. There's large pastures that go up the hill here. This is the main lower pasture. And the interface between everything, between where the animals would be and wouldn't be, was well thought out. We put all this together, and the fences are built in ways where the posts are, if you're going to have an animal on the inside, post is on the outside so that the animals won't chew them up, won't tear them up. Places like this are kind of like cow runs. You know, there's spots where you can let the animals in for a second and close off other areas so they could graze through. That's why we have fences separating the edible plants that, you know, if you let goats into the strawberries and the orchard, obviously that might be a bummer, you know. They tend to eat everything, but you can let them in here and they could graze this down. Now the poppies are in here, of course. That's not a problem. So one of the issues that we're doing is this is one of the last parts. I wanted to bring you out here because we've gotten to a point where we're dealing with this. And this is what we're down to. I mean, we put down wood chips, but the foxtails and stuff, the wild wheats and grasses have come through the fences on accident when even here, you know, they get out of control. So the poppies are holding down a large percent, and all the rest, you know, I mean, we've mopped it up. But out here, there's going to be some hand pulling. But when you put down a lot of wood chips, look at that, look. I know I'm like big old guy or whatever, but like 2 little fingers, okay? My little girls can pull weeds in this type of stuff. You know, little 3-year-old used to help me all the time, but that's because I put down bark and it just pops right out. And the disturbance isn't as bad as when you're pulling weeds normally. You know, you're not just doing the old pull a weed, disturb the soil, create more weeds. You know, with wood chips, it's like you already have your ground cover down that's going to smother out the bad weeds. So you just try and do it real gentle and pop them out. But that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons to put down these wood chips, is because it's just feather work to pop out that many weeds that quick. You know, you could go through and just slide your fingers between them, and I mean, they just slide out of the soil. So it makes it really easy. So what looks like craziness at first, you start to realize is just going to be a pile of weeds. Now, don't leave your grasses when you throw them sitting there to dry out, because they'll just drop their seeds. Those are green, and I'm going to put them right away into a bin, and I'm not going to put them anywhere where I don't want them to grow again. I can put them downhill myself. I can put them where I do want grasses to hold slopes, stuff like that. So that's how quick that goes. And then of course, if you have 10,000 poppy seeds, right? They actually compete. Look how many more poppies you're going to have than grasses. And these are just going to come in here. So if you remove the bad ones, that's attrition, and let just the good ones come in, they're just going to cover the ground. So besides that, what you have to do is keep your field from coming in. So that's besides just the fact that the acid of the plants and stuff is going to erode your metal, rot your wood and all that. If you don't have animals in your enclosures, which is this situation right now, you got to do a little bit of clearing, not just for gates, but to keep the wild, not so desirable, from coming into your interior fine-picked landscape. And it's good to have delineations and borders, not just for animals, but to know where you're keeping careful and what you're dealing with in more of a large-scale, machined-out type of method. So it's like super ornate, next level of care. And then out here, you know, I'm not even going to chop the grass in the field. That's fine, right? That's just growing fodder. And this after the fire was such a mixed batch that it was full of some really ugly stuff at first. When you take grass off, whether you burn it chemically or you're weed whacking it too early, all of the wild lettuces and the thistles and all that their seeds are there. They've always been there, and they will pop up. Grass it's a meadow mechanism, and the longer the field sits, the more the grass will come in, the more the grass will come in, the more the grass will come in. And you notice there's a couple milk plants. Those are awesome. That's what monarchs and stuff come in and feed on. And that's basically it. And it's really filled in. If I was to take this off, till it, do anything right now, it would just have a bunch of nasty weeds pop up. Nasty meaning that it would be like, you know, thick stemmed, hard to weed whack, break your stuff, all that. So I'm going to let it go till it's brittle and it's dry, not to where it's a fire danger. It's obviously not a fire danger yet. If you cut it, it can regrow because it's green. So those two things work together. If it's green, it ain't a fire danger, and it's going to be a bummer to cut through, and it's going to regrow on you, and the nasty things will come through. So you're waiting, more attrition. You're waiting for this whole army to spend all of its energy, and then you're going to chop it. In this situation, everything is common sense. Here, you don't care if the seeds mature. You're just reseeding the grass into your field. And for an animal pasture, good grass. Look at this stuff. I mean, that's deep. Ugh. So what I am going to do is give myself a border, and this is good for fire on your property. Everybody used to do this. And just clear it out. I'm going to use a shovel right around the edges so it's super clean and bare dirt. And I'm just throwing my stuff out in the field. It'll start laying down the grass. If you let grass get tall enough anyways, the wind will come up and it'll start laying it over. So, you know, it's all about choosing how to spend your energy. So we'll go along here, we'll peel everything back, and we'll weed whack it a little bit. When you're weed whacking by a fence line, you can throw a lot of seeds out through a fence into your desirable area. That may have been what happened at some point, you know. So that can be a real bummer. Don't do that. Anyways, with no further ado, back to work. Okay, so you can see how quick I'm flying along. I'm leaving desirables. Here is where I've skimmed it out before. And besides a couple of these are all Clarkias and crazy things that are popping up here at the end, so we don't mind. We'll pull a thistle. But yeah, this is bare dirt, and you can see it this time of year. The grass is so tall that just by laying it over, like you see that, you lay it over, and that's why they're amazed by some crop circles, is because the stems don't get broken. So you can very purposefully use the edge of your boot or anything, a shovel blade. See, I'm using a flat blade shovel. That's another thing. They say it's only for scooping, but I use these all the time in application out on stuff like this, because round shovels will leave little divots and you're fighting it. And, you know, I like a nice smooth grade when I'm done. So oftentimes they'll just peel up the roots, but you see that? Those won't ever stand back up this year. And I'm throwing more weight out on those. And you can walk a field down like that with the old sharp metal board things that you know, I've seen people do that. So just walking grass down, you know, that's what we're going to do with this one. We don't even cut it. So this one gets so long it basically lays down. But for the areas around where we're working, there's going to be this whole flattened down perimeter just from walking on. And it won't stand up, and because it's not shaved off, other bad weeds won't come up, just the grass will come back. And if you ever put animals in here, then they just have a solid, you know, field of perfect fodder. And all the nutrition in this field is also staying directly in this field. And pasture, grass, and prairie is the richest environment in the world, as opposed to rainforest where everything is used instantly. So pastures are the opposite of that. is what they've discovered. Meadows and prairie lands have the richest, deepest soil on the planet. That's what you're making here by stacking it up. And your little fire break and all that. So, blah, blah, blah. We'll get back there to see the delineation between the kept land and the non-kept land. Throwing all that weight on there, walking on it. And yeah, stuff just pulls out so easy out of here. And the kind of magic thing. There's your delineation line, but if you just let that stuff sit there, where you waited too long to pull this, and it was showering seeds as you were doing it, that's like fighting a war and then just giving up the land that you want every time afterwards. And who would do that, right? That's not what you do. So you gotta come along and you gotta keep going. That's what this strip is for. You can see we don't want to have to weed whack this stuff and blow stuff inside there. It would be better to just have a maintained little bare strip and to walk everything away. And just by leaning stuff, you understand, now you've made the choice. The wind and gravity, these plants can't stand up ever again. There's a certain point where you can walk along and take the thickest stuff and just walk it down, and now those seeds are literally pointed out the field. Okay, they're not going to fall in, and in this situation we don't have to weed whack them. If we were cutting it, we would have to cut it or pull it before the seeds were spreading, meaning that they were mature and falling off while we were doing it. So this is a strip that I've kept clear. I shoveled it off last year, and you can see here there's actually a fine, this is a baby pink tarweed. It just hasn't opened up its flowers yet, and the ground's right there. It's actually holding this for us. You could almost come in here now and treat it like your buffer zone and just take off the last taller grasses so that they don't reseed in there, and give yourself that outer moat, that outer wall of protection. That's what we're trying to do here. So you see the profile of it is you start taking out just the talls, and this could even stay. We don't have to take that to bare earth, because what happens when you go to bare earth, you've disturbed the soil and you've made your own repetitive cycle. See how we've chosen a line here, we're leaning the grass out. So I shaved this down because we had heavy grass. By luck, a riparian, a small plant that comes right on disturbed surfaces, has popped up, but this one we like. It's soft, there's nothing wrong with it. I know it personally. It's a good person, and it goes away. So we will just see how few grass seeds regerminated in that area. That's why there's that strip. I hope the camera's picking it up. That's not just me pulling, that's where I shaved it with the shovel last year. And only a few came back. That's what that'll be. Next year we got some shepherd's purse here. You can tell shepherd's purse by the little hearts. And the little wild Clarkias. None of this stuff is horrible. But out here, this is thick crazy, and then you get right here and it's just low down. You could even just do this to moss. Moss is a good little low height ground cover, but you don't have to go out and buy ground covers. You can nurture your land, foster stuff with attrition like we're doing, in a way to where just the native things that are at the right height, right? So you could consider this native out here. It's like pineapple weed, a little what people call wild chamomile and stuff like that. It's one of those edge of the parking lot, you know, mixes with the baby mallows and stuff. And you see that strip? You see that line there? That's not just from me pulling, that's where I shaved it. Only that grew back. That's a poppy. That's a poppy. Probably leave those. And we'll just walk the grass back out here, because that's all we've ever done. I'll throw grass onto it. I can feel the clumps from last year where I shoveled it out of here. I hope all that makes sense. This is a really important stuff because we burn up a lot of fossil fuels. You can waste a lot of time and energy on your land. You can feel overwhelmed and then not have the time, money, resources, help, etc. to be able to finish and deal with all of your property. And that's come because of the knowledge gaps, the loss in knowledge over generations and stuff. People moving in and out of urban zones. So every time that you move into an urban zone and you live there for a while and then you come back to land, you have to get your whole skill set. And we have 60% of the people in the cities now that might not necessarily be building their skill sets, keeping their skill sets if they have them in the first place, or building them and learning them about all this. So even if you just have people do this for you, I want you to see some of the things that I do to get large-scale stuff done. I have 56 acres just on this property, and I do a few properties. So that's one of the things that you can do, is keep that strip. You can see it there. And if I hit thicker stuff, I'm going to go back to shoveling. But you were with me for that decision. I'm like, nope, we're leaving that. Grass seed isn't going to pop up there. Water accidentally spills out of that dish and sun gets on that bare dirt, you don't have to worry about it again. It'll probably just make your ground cover healthier. So we would hope that maybe it would spread that way. You could even take the dry seeds later and rake them that way. Okay, so I never know how much is too much, but that's what the dirt journal is for. It's for coming with Nate on his gardening stuff. And if at any point any of it ever helps anybody, bravo. So now we took this big horrible end. You can see we've mopped up. Look at the low enemy army. This side, see nothing coming through the fence. Got the ground cover. Whoever thought that a fence and weeds could be so exciting, right? But if you just have somebody charge you $200 and they come out here and they blow a bunch of seeds in there, they make more work for themselves next year, and the people that you paid to put down the bark, now all of their effort is gone, and you know, that shouldn't be happening to anybody, and that shouldn't be the way that you're struggling through trying to do it. So the rest, you can see we got our bark and our little ground cover, and then I gave it another little strip and then raked everything that way. And you can see just by walking on the field, look at that grass, an alien landed here. You know, that won't ever stand back up. There's your profile. There's roots to the sun and lean back over. Right? Nothing getting inside. So if this was your fortress and you got backup, more backup, and then you've got them all on the run. So, and you can even come in here with a blower and blow micro seeds and stuff that have been dropped. Each one of those is going to be that many little tufts of grass the next year. So that's how you deal with it. I just got nailed by micro fire ants there in this last little patch here. But it just pulls up by the fistful. I mean, you can grab it as big as you can grab it, and that'll just clean out. That's just literally where it bled through the fence, and it's been creeping. But about 7 minutes worth of work. Nothing hard, I'm telling you. It's a beautiful spring day. Thanks for being with me. It's the same technique here, except I used the weed whacker and cropped it, and then along the thing and ground along the fence line, ground the dirt down to just bare earth, because we're also a key property. Beyond here is actually my whole neighborhood way down there, and all of this, and this is where it burned through before, this tends to be where it jumps, because this is a big old wide open grassy spot, and it has a couple times. So maintenance of the fence, you know, but also doing that little thing you should do where you leave a little bare strip around all fence lines, and then if a fire's ever charging your way, then you know you got that, you know. Fires stop, these huge fires stop like on a tire tread where a truck drove through a field. And when they stop it by hand and you see them out there cutting it, it's just a little piece of dirt that wide. I actually responded to one of these fires. I was one of the first people that got there, and I ended up out in the field cutting a line, and that's all that it took. was getting ahead of it and then doing a big old skinny trench, and then anywhere where it did jump, you just stepped on it. And that's all that I needed was something like that. So every time that I get that done early in the season, I separate this chunk of grass from this chunk of grass. You know that if a fire is coming through here again, it has that stopping point that you or nature itself could use. Plus cutting it a little shorter, and then did the same thing, just brought a rake out here and you just rake it flat, that leans it over, and then I blew all the grindings out this way with the weed eater, which also weights it down. Now it's just a big smoldering burn thing out in the middle if anything goes on. And you've created all these lines of defense, keeping it all green and sand, all developed stuff and ornamentals and rock. And then even wood chips, you know, they can burn, but they're a slow burn and just no quick move across it force. So as these poppies get dry, we crop them off. They're perennials, their roots get bigger and bigger. I won't take them off at the crown. I'll just shave them. A lot of them will get bunched and spread out to other spots where we have bare earth that we've made anywhere disturbed. That bare dirt to me, unless it's in a desert or an environment that exists like that on its own as bare earth. Otherwise, if you're in a green zone, part of the planet, I mean, that grows plants, and you have exposed dirt, that's bleeding moisture. It's a wound. Okay, that's a wound. So the sooner that you can get, I don't care if it's rock, cement, asphalt, plastic, bark, growing things back on there, then all the microorganisms under there, all the living things, all the dirt process, all the roots of these larger organisms that you see, the connectivity of one thing to another underground through all the systems that they use to convey nutrients and information and stuff, that's all connected again. So you can see this tree can talk to that tree. It can pass nutrients and stuff and be connected to all of the microscopic organisms and the mushrooms and everything in the soil. Right now, this is getting blasted by UV. I did that. You can use that to your benefit, but try and come up with a plan on the planet besides just burning up human hours, petroleum fuels, poisons, blah blah blah, to try and keep unsustainable bare earth. Put something there that's the best for the situation, even if it's fireproof something, you know. Ideally here, I guess we could bring wood chips out. Crow is still laughing at me. I think it's the same one, just follows me around giggling now. Maybe it's an old friend. Okay. So as you start to get the greens cut back and everything defined to where you want it to be, you can see this is just poppies and such. There's the garden. Just take a stroll all the way out here. Bachelor button, see the blues? Those are just getting going. You can see all the beginning of this garden and its process through a little bit of before the fires, the cleanup, and then the building of each of these parts that now are coming to full tuition. It's just that time of day. I'm working, I need a break. And look at the orchard, it's a happy thing. And just got the creek all the way done. The big bulk of today has just been pulling. You can see we got our last little area where there's the mixed grass, but then you can see how clean all the rest of that is. Now it's really getting there. And I mean, it's not that much of a hassle. You can walk in between it or you can just stomp on them. It doesn't matter. Spots like this we've kicked through so that you can have a little path, and clearing the poppies out of the berries, because berries are kind of finicky and plants can pick on each other. So we got to get the water on these now that the areas where the poppies were, I mean, they're literally getting crowded out. So figs coming to life. Hi blackbirds. There's the fence lines that we cleared out earlier. Ooh, all the blackbirds are here, going through all the stuff we chucked out. there's the strip above. So because this is downhill of this, it's important to not let weeds fall down into here. Same reason why we're clearing the fence so that stuff doesn't rain into there. So you have your whole mountainside, but it has a pasture in between. Our ground cover, the bark, this row of rocks, and then we hand weed in here, and that's what keeps it all to here. And then the creek seeds don't go uphill very often. You see my rock wall? Ah, there's turrets lost down in there. But yeah, that's the bulk of it. You can see the little piles of weeds. I gotta gather those up and toss them out in the pasture. But like before, into like after, it doesn't take that long. And then you water the berries and they all pop back up. It's a little hot today. You ever get these I got the sweat going on. System, absorb your water. It's precious. Need some potato chips and a gallon of water.